I would have recognized it. No, they fit on time. Yeah. Where are you living now? Yeah. So, and I'm so sorry to hear
How do you do? Nice to see you again.
Well, welcome. What a wonderful day. And to think you're all in Queensborough, you lucky people. This is a fantastic village. And I'm prejudiced, but I grew up here, over in that house. Went away for 40 years and came back. And it's wonderful. And it's nice to see all these people. Some people I don't know, a lot I do. So we're going to get started. I don't think Daryl Cramp is here. I haven't seen him. But he should have come because his wife, what's her last name's Carol Ann. She grew up here and went to Moore School, and when you're up at the center you can see her picture. And I'll show it. And we invited a very special group of people. The people that worked with Queensborough, Arden, and in a program called First Impressions, and they approached Queensborough and said, do you work together? And we worked with the Ministry of Agriculture, and here's our leader, wave your hand. Here's Karen Fisher from the ministry, and she got us together and we did a special program. And the Arden people, would you wave? So look at them, Woo-hoo! So you can ask any of those people about that special program, First Impressions. I don't know if our neighbor, Bob Sager, I don't know if he's here. And I asked Owen Ketchison, because they are our neighbors, and Queensborough is very unique in that, special, because we have postal and telephone with MADOC. MADOC Township used to be with, Queensborough used to be with MADOC Township, and said until we revolted and formed Elsevier, and you can ask Catherine all about that. And I was hoping that the last reeve of Elsevier Township is Jack Robinson, but I don't think I haven't been able to get a hold of him. But that's all the politicians, except for the special duty ones, and that's our very own municipal of Tweed, and they are the ones who are going to have a few words, and Don DeGenova is going to be greetings from Tweed. They have been very supportive of all of our programs here.
Thank you very much, Elaine.
Yeah. I'll step aside.
No, you don't step aside. You stay right over here. No.
You got to be in the highlight.
Anyway, it's indeed an honor for me to be here today to represent the municipality of Tweed. Mayor Albert really regrets the fact that she can't be. She is on a vacation, and much deserved. So unfortunately she couldn't be here with us today, but she has asked that I stand in and speak on her behalf, and I'm also very happy to mention that I have Deputy Mayor Traynor and Councillor Jim Fleeler are both here as well. This is a day for all of us to celebrate. You have done an amazing job. Elaine and all of the volunteers, this is a story that needs to be shared. I was just talking with Karen, and she talked about the First Impressions program, and she was talking about how Queensborough, the community of Queensborough, the citizens of Queensborough, the volunteers of Queensborough are a model community which she likes to hold up to show how things can be done, how people can rally together and preserve their culture and their history. And that is exactly what this group has done. And I'm going to put in a pitch for this little magazine right here, this little historic guide of Queensborough. This was done again by a group of volunteers. It's a little it's historic Queensborough, talks about the various houses It talks about some history to it. And there's not many communities that can say that they've done that. There's not many communities that take such pride in who they are and their history that they want to capture it and preserve it and share it with all of us. This community has done so many different things. You've noticed the beautification when you come into the community with the nice floral displays and the flower boxes. We have the community center, the old schoolhouse, which is a central gathering place for the residents of this community for their potlucks. There's the recreation program that this community develops every year and every summer in support of the students. There is the greet and meet of the kayakers that come down the Black River when whitewater rafting and coming down in their kayaks, and they're greeted here, and it's a big festival type atmosphere. You have done so much, and we as a municipality, we as a council are so appreciative, and we thank you all, and we thank all of the people who come from far and wide to be here today, and the ones from Arden as well. Thank you very much for being here and in sharing in this glorious day for Queensborough and the municipality of Tweed.
Thank you. Queensborough the community had two goals, two of our top goals that we developed, and it was to beautify and to preserve. And we certainly are well on our way, and it's great. That's a lot of different people coming to do different things that are of interest to them. But today we're going to start with the sign, the historic sign. And so we have who's going to unveil. This is Jimmy Gordon. Jimmy Gordon has lived in Queensborough except for the last 5-6 years. All his life has a big member of the community, and he knows so much. He's just like, well, we'll ask Jimmy when he gets here. We'll ask Jimmy when he gets here. Excellent. And next is Betty Strauss. She is the great-great-granddaughter, and her sister's here. Wave your sister. She's also the great-great-granddaughter of Daniel Thompson, who was the founder of Queensborough. Other community members, but I think he took the bull by the horns and got things going. And he didn't build the mill, but he built the house over there, the Thompson house. I'm a Thompson, but the two Thompsons are not related. And my father was the last miller of the mill. And then we have Barb Sager, and oh my Lord, no, you got married 55 years ago.
I might not like that.
Barb Martin. Anyway, she's very important. The Sagers are a strong family here. But where we're standing right now, the house, and there was a store, and it was moved from here over there. The house that you see on the corner is the house that was over here. And they moved it, and I read Alan Ramsey pulled it on horses. I thought he'd have to be a little boy.
It wouldn't be Alan Ramsey, no.
So if you see that written somewhere, you just put something else in. And that means that whenever you go up to the school, young people call it the community center, but to me it's still the school, our one-room schoolhouse. I went to school there 8 years, one room, same teacher, Hilda and Claire. Anyway, so we're going to unveil this right now. So come here, and you grab a little. I'll come to you. Oh, I have to go this way. So what?
One more, Elaine.
I've never done unveiling. Should there be a ceremony? To me, I think we should go hip hip hooray afterwards. That's a very old-fashioned thing to do. Let's count. 1, 2, 3. There. And you will be able to read. We have the railroad, the mill, the store that was here, and the famous rock festival. If you want to know about the rock festival, I think we have Quinlan's here, but Catherine knows everything. Wait, Catherine. And now we're going to have another volunteer partner, and Anne is the person who is the goer and getter of the beautification committee and has done outstanding work with her team. So, girls, Can you babysit?
Yep.
You hustle down. And you tell about the project.
The beautification grant, we started doing beautification in 2012, and that was a $3,000 grant that came from the municipality. I think all the hamlets, if they chose to do it, were able to get that. And it was just an idea to try to, like Queensborough definitely is beautiful, but it was losing some of its beauty, and so we decided that some of the things that we'd like to do would be to take our Welcome to Queensborough signs, enhance them. We built boxes, we put in perennials, we went to the school and planted a cherry tree of some kind, we fixed the steps, and then it was like, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could bring back the riverfront, because it was just a disaster. There was garbage and oh, it was awful. So pretty well, I would say pretty well everybody in the community came out that July, and we took back the riverfront, and was very proud of it. The last year's grant was used for our signs, our street signs, and we bought some hanging baskets to add to that this year. And this year, our money is hoping to go to a sign that's coming down Barrie Road, similar to the other two. And we're also hoping to do some kind of an information bulletin board that we can put maybe over in that direction, and then just try to maintain what we've accomplished so far. And at this point in time, we have Mary Kay and Yoss Pronk, Chuck and Bruce Steele, Graham Goff, Smokey's Towing and his family, and Underhill. Ralph and Kathy Underhill are the going committee, and then of course myself and John Barry. And John pretty well keeps everybody's grass cutting Queensborough, whether they want it or not. So that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years, 3 years, and hopefully we'll continue on in the next whatever the municipality will allow us to do so. So thank you.
Here is the original flower way back there. Because a guy happened along the river,
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Come out to Queensborough here, eh?
It's kind of nice. I drive through Queensborough every now and then,
Yes.
but I seldom get out and walk around.
Good for you.
Today is just a fine day to do that.
Friendly place.
We stopped at St. Andrews, we stopped at the old St. Peter's, we stopped at the mill, and we're meeting all sorts of people I haven't seen in years.
Exactly.
That's very nice.
There's lots of people.
Expert on Queensborough history. I've done some research. I wrote this little booklet, but I bet there are people on this wagon who know a lot more about Queensborough history than I do. So please correct me and add stuff in if I forget stuff or get it wrong. I just got corralled into being your tour guide here today.
I'm glad we have you.
Oh, thanks, Joan. This is Bruce Gordon and his wife Barb from MADOC Township, right? Or MADOC proper?
MADOC Township.
MADOC Township. Bruce grew up in Queensborough like I did. He was my neighbor. And these are Dawn and Barney, and they're full of life today. So here we are. So we're starting here, right behind these leaves here, and I'm sure you've seen it already, is one of the 4 churches in Queensborough, and the very first one to be built, I think 1851, but I'm doing that from memory. It was St. Peter's, I keep saying Anglican Church, but in fact it was Church of England at the time. So that was the first church built in town, and it was the land for it was donated by the William Wiggins, who lived in a house right here. Now you've all probably been down here already today. This is the center focal point of Queensborough. It's beautiful, obviously.
That's okay, I'm holding on.
But Queensborough basically exists because of the mill. There was a chap named Miles Riggs who was traveling up the Black River, saw the dam there, thought that would be a good place for a mill, and he, in the middle of the 19th century, he built a sawmill and a grist mill, a flour mill. That building that still stands is his flour mill. So it's a really old building. And because there were those industries here, people came to work at them and to build up other businesses and to live here. And so the town grew up around that mill. So it's because of that that we have a village
Okay,
here.
I have something to add.
What do you got, Terry?
I believe, and I've always been told by the Congress that house did not have a single nail in it.
Really?
That's their house?
That
Oh,
house was
wow.
nailed in it. It does now, for sure. But it didn't have
How did they put it together? Dowels.
dowels.
Oh, that,
Holes and put
of course,
pegs in.
the way they do furniture.
A single nail.
The house was built by, the chap who took over from Miles Riggs as the miller was Daniel Thompson, who came here from Ireland, and he was the first postmaster. He had the post office in the mill building, and he named Queensborough, because I guess if you're postmaster you get to name the place, he named Queensborough for the town that was the last thing he saw as his ship sailed away from Ireland to the New World. So that's how we got our name. Lud and Elaine Kapusta live in this house now. Elaine grew up in that house, and Daniel Thompson built that house. Here's Lud. Yes, they did some work here just this past year. The dam has been a popular swimming hole for Queensborough kids and adults for generations. I was pointing out that during our rock festival, the Rock Acres Peace Festival in 1971, held on a very hot August weekend, way back then, attended by people such as Bruce Gordon. The young people came into town, particularly as the festival, I think maybe things were winding down, so they flooded clothes on. And that was a big deal in Queensborough.
That was the best attraction.
That was the best attraction.
It was disgusting.
Oh yeah, he says that now. He says that now.
And it was written up in the Toronto Star.
That's right. It was a
because
big
we were
deal.
living in Toronto. We just bought the property and we thought, we didn't know this was going on. We thought someone had their radio turned on too loud all the day.
Very upset.
Actually, they must have
Noisy
copied.
neighbors.
They must have copied off of Mossport.
They did. They did absolutely.
Because I lived in Tyrone at the time, and they swam nude there as well.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they did, but it was quite a job to get it, and then once that one was done, that was the end of them.
Yeah.
Because actually there was no real problems.
The people said the young people were really nice, really
Yes.
polite. Do you remember the guy with the snake? There was a guy, one of the hippies, he had this huge boa constrictor that sort of wrapped around himself, and he walked through downtown. Oh, there are pictures of that up at the school. That was quite something too.
This would have been 10 miles away.
Yeah, because I hate snakes.
Oh really? Okay. Yeah, they had some good bands here. The Stampeders played. I was too young to go. but
Stampeders are still playing.
That's right. That's right. But you could hear the music, yes. Terry and
they're
Joan
good
said you could
band.
hear the music in
We
town.
thought it was our next door neighbor across the river.
It was very exciting.
Yeah.
It was.
And the noise went on all
that we
night
ever
long.
played.
Yeah.
And we thought, what are they doing with their radio on so
That was
loud?
disappointing.
Well,
had
people
good
must have been
neighbors,
buying a lot of pop and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
good for business.
Yeah. So Elaine and Lud have done a beautiful job of keeping this house up. It's really a showpiece.
It's really pretty when it gets red.
That would be nothing but a money pit finishing
Oh
edges of the
yeah.
roof.
Right.
Oh yeah.
There's a little house there.
Now I'll start talking about the general stores before we actually get there. So these buildings here, the white one and the reddish and grayish one, were our two general stores when Bruce and I were growing up here. Bobby Sager Ramsey had this one, and the one across the street was Clayton and Blanche McMurray. They sold everything under the sun, from gas for your car to food, obviously, canned goods, hardware, tools, stationery, penny candy. The post office was in McMurray's back in those days. They were the real centers of the community. The churches were important, the school was important, but I would say the stores were the heart of the community. They were open late, 2 or 3 or 4 nights a week. People would come down, sit on the benches, shoot the breeze, trade the gossip, and it was a great thing. It was a great thing. McMurray's was originally a hotel, which is why it was so big. There was a tavern there, which I think was probably pretty lively in the early days of Queensborough, because there were a lot of loggers, miners, rough folks around. I'm sure they had some lively times there. They led up to the Methodist church, which used to be there. I'm always surprised because it doesn't look like a very big piece of land, and the church in the old pictures looks fairly big. Right here, there was the Methodist church. So that was, I think, the second church to be built. And it's funny, because a lot of the people who were involved in building the Anglican church were also involved in building the Methodist church. They may have been Anglicans, but it was like they wanted to have a church for everybody. They wanted to have a community here. Kind of cool. This blue building was the original manse for the Methodist church. We're not going to go on up to the blue building? The blue building, yep. That was the first manse for the Methodist church. There's the steeple of St. Henry's Roman Catholic Church. It was open when I first lived here, closed in the 60s. And we're not going to go on up, but on that side of the street, on the right-hand side, who knows who this is?
John A.
That's right, our first Prime Minister. Well, Sir John A. Macdonald, believe it or not, owned a bunch of land in Queensborough one time, where there's some new houses right up here on the right, and those properties were owned by Sir John. Now, I had heard that, and I had heard, well, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But recently I discovered there's actually the deed. He signed by Sir John A. and his wife, and they owned that land. Now, we don't think they did anything with it. They didn't develop it, and in fact, he lost it to the bank. It was probably bought as a speculation, but there you go, Sir John A. Macdonald. Wow.
And this is an important house.
This was the manse that was built. That was the original Methodist manse. This was built in 1888. It is now the manse, or it was then later the manse for the United Church. I grew up in that house. My father was the minister. This was the manse. That's the manse, and I live there again now.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful. And it's a nice old house. Needs work inside.
Oh, it's lovely.
But it's nice house.
Good bones. So you're right beside McNeil's.
That's right. And this is one of the gardens that's on the tour, the McNeil's. I highly recommend it. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. This house here was where Goldie Holmes lived. She was known as the quilt lady.
Yeah.
There used to be a sign outside that said Holmes House of Threads. And she made quilts featuring scenes of Queensborough and the buildings of Queensborough, and she got very famous for it. She was featured on CBC TV, her work was shown at galleries in Toronto, and she was just a lovely, salt-of-the-earth person. She was she only died a few years ago, well into her years. She was sorry?
She was a teacher.
Oh, was she? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
And she had fantastic memory.
Oh,
Fantastic.
it's true. That's true. She was like the memory of the village, wasn't she? She knew, yeah.
One of her quilts is on display up in the Tweed Heritage
That's right.
Center, too.
That's right. Yes.
And the buildings.
Yes, and that quilt was almost bought by some Americans taken out of the country, and there's a bit of a story behind it, but thank goodness it's there. Yeah. So this is the United Church. It was built as a Presbyterian church and became united with Church Union, built in 1890, and it's the one church that's still operating in town. And some of us on this cart were in that service this morning. It's a really nice old historic church. And we're really proud that it's still going. Oh, and it's site of the famous church suppers, which some of you have probably been to. Turkey supper in the fall, October 1st this year. Ham supper in the spring. I had a lady tell me today in church, was it you?
Yeah.
That she has a sister who lives in Australia,
Right.
who comes back.
Yeah.
For the suburbs.
Well, she times her visit around the Queensborough Turkey Supper, and I think that's terrific.
From Australia.
From Australia.
She lives in a village called Toowoomba.
Oh, wow. This nice old house was where Bobby Sager Ramsey, our storekeeper and unofficial mayor of Queensborough for many years, lived. We used to have choir practice here on Thursday nights. It's been really nicely restored by the current owners. It's a really nice old house. Beautiful. Bobby's parents lived here before her, Robert and Elsie Sager.
Yes. And Isabel Shaw. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Sometime in the future, you should have a historic house tour.
Well, we talked about it. We've talked about
That's
it.
nice. Yeah.
Yes, and we'd like to have a garden tour when it's a better time of year for gardens, because there's lots of nice gardens around. The building we're coming up to here on the right is the former train station. Back in the first 25, 30 years of the 20th century, there was a train that ran through here from Tweed, Kinolite here, Cooper, Bannockburn, and back, at least once a day at first, and then it slowed down after that. Freight and people. It's really hard to believe now that there was that much activity, but there was. So this is the station. The station master lived here, and it was the station. And Jim Gordon, who's a longtime Queensborough resident, was on an earlier ride, and he said there used to be a big freight shed 40 feet long out there. Do you remember this? Do you remember the train station? You wouldn't remember it operating, obviously.
But Uncle George, now
Yes,
Flossie lived there.
they lived, that's right. That's right. I remember them when they lived there. It was a red house then, as I recall. Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, at the school, there up on display at the school, there's a book kept by the miller in that time, in the early part of the 20th century, Mr. Squires, and it's copies of his letters. He wrote to suppliers, to customers, and so on. He was forever writing to the Ogilvy flour mills in Montreal and putting in orders and saying, send it by car. He would, send a car, and it would be a carload that would come down here from Montreal, and they'd unload it. And they would also ship stuff from here. They would ship cheese from the local cheese factories and timber probably. And as I say, it's so quiet now. It's really hard to believe that all this activity went on. Then.
Change it up on them. They're getting to know the route.
They're being very good.
They are.
And they look beautiful.
Aren't they lovely?
Now, did you go to school in the school here?
I missed going to that school by basically months. I went to in June of 1966, I went to initiation day and sat with the other kids, and I was 6 years old, and I was going to start grade 1 in September, and that was the year they decided to close it and went to the township school. But you must have gone.
Yes. Actually, the first teacher was Hill to declare.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
even though it's in Elizabeth Township, the kids were bused
yeah. There were a whole bunch of schools, and they were on display at the school. There was one down here near where Terry and Joan live.
But there's no.
Is that the red school?
No, that was the red school. Yep. There was one up at Moore's Corners. There was one way back in the Rockies, and there was Cedar School on the road to MADOC, because there were no buses then. You had to be in walking distance.
The old log schoolhouse that's at the O'Hara Mill was actually from the Elizabeth Township.
Oh, see, the things I'm learning here.
Yeah, there's a little bit of blurb of the history, but when they replaced it with a brick one, they used to use it like a woodshed, and then eventually they donated it to Moyle River, and they reestablished it over there.
So, Kath, sorry, I just about Cedar School.
Yep.
It's on the road to MADOC.
On the road to MADOC.
But it's not still standing.
No, there's an old pump, and that's all that's there. It's right at where you see Cedar School Road on the right, and it was
east of MADOC, or
it's east. Thank you,
east of
Joe.
MADOC.
Yes.
No.
Is that right?
Oh, east of MADOC?
Yeah, Cedar School. Yeah.
Is that not very far west of here?
No, it's right near where the Rock Festival is.
Yes.
okay. Well, we came up another road to get on to Queensborough Road, so that's why I don't know.
Now, I heard today that in that school there were babies buried in the schoolyard. And the kids that were going to school were always told by the teacher, you don't play in that section. They had wooden crosses on those plots.
Yeah, that girl that was talking to me, she told me about that, the volunteer.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
She said there was a graveyard right next to it.
I never
There's no sign
knew
of it
that.
now. And
I know someone who went to that school, so I'm going to ask her about
So,
it.
what year? Oh, later.
Yeah, she went there back in like the 30s and 40s. She's of an age, this lady.
Yeah.
She was.
In-laws were, they were the early 20s.
Okay.
She talked to me
Yes,
already.
the Dip Roses. Oh, that's
The
really,
Dip Rose,
that's
yeah.
really interesting. Dip
And
Roses ran a hotel.
Joseph.
Yes, Joseph Dip Rose.
Yeah, he ran the old hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'd be the great-grandfather, though.
Okay. There were 4 blacksmith shops in Queensborough, which again seems amazing. One of them was right over here. One of them was straight ahead of us. That was, as Bruce reminded, his name was Billy Wilson, but as Bruce reminded me, everybody called him Nub Wilson. The shed for his shop is still there. And then there were 2 more right where where we picked you up and where we'll drop you off again. So I mean, how there could have been that much work? It just goes to show what a busy place it was.
But if you looked at the early settlement of this, and the waterways with all the mills, and mining and everything else, they would have kept
everything was by horse. Yeah.
Even the mines and stuff like that.
I think they had a couple hundred people come on the rail to stay at the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I should point out the street signs. I keep
forgetting to do that. So these are our new street signs made right here in Queensborough by Jos Pronk, who has the machine shop in Bobby Sager's old store. He does amazing work, and the beautification committee is responsible for those, and they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. This house here is very, very important because it's the house that Bruce grew up in. It was Carl and Lois Gordon's house, and it's a very old house, beautifully kept up by our current neighbors Ruth and Chuck, and it was the manse for the Anglican Church way back in the day.
I think you need little plaques in front of these houses with.
We're going to try to do that. We're going to try to do that. So Ruth and Chuck are very involved in the beautification committee, and they do a fantastic job. Hi guys. And I'm Bruce. I keep embarrassing him, but when I look at this driveway, I can still picture Bruce's dune buggy parked in that driveway.
This was
a lot of miles on that thing.
This was of the Orange Lodge.
This was the Orange Lodge. This is a very early building. It was here before any of the churches were built, and church services were held here before there were churches. And dances. And you used to go here to vote. And I was told recently that during the 1918 flu epidemic, it was a hospital. So it's very, yeah. So this cluster of trees was where George Gordon's blacksmith shop was, and there was another one right across the way. So I think that's some friendly competition.
Bobby's house was a midwife type of operation.
Man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Bobby's mom was the local midwife.
Wow. And Bobby herself was a bit of a go-to person for medical things sometimes.